What's up, guys? I decided to make another video. It's been a minute, but I feel like I want to be more consistent making videos because I'm getting so much more insights and learning so many new things. I feel like it's just hard to go about not sharing it with you guys. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about what I have learned, what my experience has been like being a therapist for a whole year. So going into therapy, there was one particular fear I had that I feel like it was a personal concern that I had because I felt like it would have gone my way into becoming the best version of myself as a therapist. And that was, will I feel the effects of listening to people's stories, traumas, complaints, over and over again, multiple times a day? Would it get to me at some point? Would it negatively affect my own mental health? And I decided to talk to a few mental health therapists and psychologists beforehand, before I decided to get into it. And, they all told me that they all had a therapist themselves. So every therapist has a therapist that they talk to kind of let go of their feelings and just vent and need take advices or whatever it is that they need it for. At least at this point, I feel like I don't need a therapist because I was surprised to learn that I didn't soak up that energy after I was done with that session. Like, I didn't carry on that energy or that mood after I was done with the session. I learned that I was pretty good at just letting go of whatever the mood or energy was during the session and just leave it there. And I say that to other therapists or aspiring therapists that if you could build that skill, it would be very, very helpful, because I know some people are very empathetic. They feel the pain of other people, and being a therapist, if you have that quality, it's going to be very difficult to not feel the pain of every patient or client you're looking at and talking to, and just going about your day like nothing happened, because you'll be on average seeing about 8 patients a day. For some places it's less, for some more, but it kind of depends on how you schedule it. But either way, it's something that you should develop, a skill you should develop, so it helps you in the future to just carry on your day without letting your work interfere with your personal life. So with that being said, after being a year and talking to so many different types of people, of course, there's a whole HIPAA thing going on, and the HIPAA violation, I'm not going to really tell you about the stuff that happens in the session, but I'm just going to tell you about patterns that I've noticed. I'm not going to give away any names or identify any information. But a pattern I've noticed, and the first one I've noticed, is the fact that a lot of people come with the complaint of dealing with anxiety. And that's the number one thing that a lot of people complain about. Among other things, there is depression, and there is also a lack of motivation, which I'll get to soon, which also blows my mind. And they're not really able to pinpoint what is causing them anxiety. They just generally feel it. And then when you dig into their lifestyle, you understand that a common theme among all of them is the overload of information they are taking in, through social media, through TV, news, whatever it is. The amount of information they are taking in, and on top of that, layer that with the pressure of being a New Yorker, because anyone who lives in New York, they know there's a whole hustle culture going on, and there's a big pressure onto getting things done. And taking a day off in the middle of the week will feel like a sin if you know the speed at which New York works with. But a lot of these other patterns that I've noticed obviously applies to just way beyond New York. Like the overload of social media and the consumption of media and information is just so overwhelming that it almost paralyzes a person mentally. So I've also spoken to some of my clients about this, and this concept called analysis paralysis. So basically, you're thinking of doing something for so long, and you have so much information and factors to just consider that you just find yourself ruminating about it the whole time without even having to take the first step. So you're really not really getting anywhere else. And this is where depression comes into play as well for a lot of people, where social media plays a part because they have so many goals. They have so many things on their to do list, whether that is related to content creation or whether that's related to other things they're trying to accomplish outside of social media. They just never get to it because their to do list just keeps getting so long that they are overwhelmed and they don't know where to begin. And that's because there are a million tips on how to do each and every single thing. You want to clean your house? There's 5 ways to do that. You want to try to lose weight? There is 20 ways to do that. You trying to make money online without showing your face ever? There is 100 ways to do that. So where do you even begin? The time it takes to kind of go over that information is going to leave you in a place where you feel like you have no proper starting point. When that happens, you are so ambitious, you have so many goals, and there's no action to back up those goals, and you're just filling your tank up with these dreams and goals, and there's no way of letting it out. And that leads to depression because you feel like you're being unproductive. You start feeling purposeless. You feel like you're not adding anything positive to your life. And one way to go about in dealing with that is obviously the simplest one is limiting yourself to how much media you're consuming every day. But even besides that, it's letting or having a action or creating something to let out that information you've just consumed or letting out that inspiration you've been holding on to. Creating is one of the best ways to let go. It's an output of that energy you're consuming through social media. So it lightens you up. And that just the feeling you get from being able to create something is incomparable when you're consuming it compared to when you're consuming information on a daily. So creating is one of the best ways I know to deal with overload of information on social media. And here's another thing. When you find yourself so overwhelmed with information and you have so much going on in your mind, let alone the crisis you're dealing with, suppose your relationships, your family, your job, financial situation, on top of that, you're adding information coming in through social media. What's happening is, there's the best way I can explain this is giving you an example of an artist or someone who sketches. They're sketching on a sketchbook, right? All these sketches and the lines are just getting more and more and more. They're not really making any concrete shape out of it. They're just adding lines and drawing more on top of it to fix whatever shape they're trying to draw. But what's really happening is it's just turning into this whole big mess on that page. And what do artists do? What do people who sketch do when that happens? Sometimes they try to erase it, but when the mess is that big, they try to just turn over the page and start with a blank page. And now that's just a metaphor of how that could be applied to your life. When you find yourself in such a big mess of information and crippling relationships and financial crisis, the best thing you can do is starting with a clean page. And that translates into simplifying your life, following a minimalistic lifestyle, where the first thing you do is start clearing up your physical surrounding, the mess you had, the garage sale you've been wanting to hold because you have a hoarding issue or you're just having all these stuff around your house that you don't need. And that may not seem like a big deal at first, but clearing up your surrounding will make a whole big difference in your mental state. So that's how I dealt with people who were dealing with anxiety. I feel like that was the common theme I saw there. The other theme I saw was a lack of motivation. It's just taking that first step into doing something that you've been wanting to do on your list for a long time. That's the biggest challenge for a lot of people I've noticed. It's not following up on it. I get it that consistency is a whole big thing and it's an issue in itself, but the first step was the biggest issue for a lot of these people. Another thing I noticed with a lot of my clients is that when they are unable to identify I wouldn't say a lack, but a familiarity with dealing with a situation in certain aspects of their life. For example, transitions. How there's some clients who just didn't know how to deal with transitions in their life, whether it was bigger or small transition, whether it was like getting a new job or moving out of their house, whatever it was. Their inability to deal with those transitions followed with guilt. That was a common theme. They felt that they weren't capable, they lacked something, that they were weak because they weren't able to successfully, smoothly transition into a different phase of their life. But it's crazy to think about it because as humans, the only thing that's constant in our life is change. And so you would think that that would be something that we would be very familiar with doing, or being at least very capable of doing. But our mind just adapts to situations so profoundly and so deeply that a change and a need for the brain to adapt to a different situation creates a state of panic, a state of unfamiliarity. And so not being able to successfully just navigate through those phases creates a sense of guilt because they feel like they lack something other people have. But in the end of the day, I tell them, like, wait, things you are facing, the majority of feelings you are having in your mind, and the conversations you have in your mind, are very, very similar to what other people think as well and have talk about as well in their mind. And so you're not alone in feeling that, because feeling alienated creates a whole different sense of feeling alone and depressed, that you are somehow a little different than the rest of them because you lack something. And when feelings come from a place of lack, they create a very negative environment in your body. And the way I change that in people's perspective is, instead of saying, oh, I have to start public speaking in my new job, or I have to start commuting 2 hours in my new job, you change that into, I get to public speak in my new job. I get to work this new job. I get to influence people in this new job. And it doesn't have to be in job. I get to experience this new phase of my life. A lot of people don't have that privilege or luxury to experience something. So being able to get to do is a whole different perspective, that if you shift that and you tell yourself that every time you face a change or transition in life, that you get to do it, it creates a sense of positivity and changes that environment of lack into an environment of abundance. And that will make a whole big difference. So, these are some of the common themes I've noticed being a therapist for a year and how I dealt with it. And I'm just giving you general ways of dealing with it. Obviously, everyone's situation is different. Everyone has different cards they're dealing with in their life, and they're trying to make the best out of it. But this is generally my approach on certain issues, like these common issues that I face. So yeah, with that being said, and not going on a whole different tangent and touching on a million different topics, that's basically the things I've noticed. And it's hard to sum up so many different realizations I've had being a therapist for a year. But these are some of the more dominant factors I've noticed throughout the whole year, and realizations I've had. So I would have to make more videos on the other things I've noticed being a therapist. But for now, I'm going to keep it to this. But I hope you got something out of this video and you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave a thumbs up. And if you want to see more of such videos, hit the subscribe button as well. And for anyone who subscribes, just comment down below that you subscribed, and we can have a one-on-one session with whatever you want to talk about for whatever crisis you're facing in your life, and I'll do my best and give you my one advice on that situation. So that's all for this video, but watch out for more videos like this and various other topics, because I do promise to make more videos now that I want to be more consistent. So stay tuned for more. Until then, peace out.